Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I was listening to the speaker earlier. I can assure him and all the audience that I think as we call it in Hindi, तीर कमान से निकल चुका है. Most companies have already adopted the technology and embraced technology. In fact, whoever was not thinking of doing so in last 2 years because of the pandemic have actually accepted uh, even more. And I think if you were to look at the real estate development journey, from understanding market and dynamics, whether it's artificial intelligence, search engines, media companies, social media companies, a lot of intelligence, information, qualified lead generations is already commenced, and we have made the most of it. You can clearly see from the media spending that is happening, it's actually becoming more digital instead of print. Print will always be there and electronic will always be there to complement it, but it's the digital which is taking most of the space right now as we speak. So from gathering information and understanding consumer behavior, consumer preferences, liking, disliking, tech is being used to actually assess, and therefore you repurpose your business around it, because tech has disrupted most of the sectors and real estate is no different. So that's when it comes to understanding of it. Now, from there, if you were to really operate your business, which is the next big part of any business enterprise, we already using the best of the technology tools available to all of us. We are using uh, design tools. We're using, BIM for management of the projects. We're using construction of 3D technologies to kind of make sure that we model right and being able to assess the quantities right, being able to actually project manage through the BIM. Also, once you complete the process of construction, beside the obvious precast technology and robotics that we increasingly going to use in the real estate sector and are being used, uh, even the asset management, a lot of technology, Internet of Things and tools and new convergence of technology is taking place in the sector. So I would say the whole ecosystem of the real estate sector is actually now clearly has embraced technology, and kind of progressing very well. In fact, increasingly, it's becoming apparent that why real estate sector is considered as a brick and mortar industry. It's actually more tech, tech driven, and indeed technology and all the tools that we are using now is playing an increasingly very large role. I would say even when it comes to taking the investors angle, or indeed the government's angle, because all of this is part of the ecosystem that the real estate developed companies are part of. Even the government is digitizing. They're also using technology and tools to ensure that they actually participate. I know RERA, for example, has really continuously is upgrading their system to communicate with the real estate sector digitally. So all these advances are making the sector far more robust, disciplined, and we are moving from Excel based to real time information. A lot of augmented reality, uh, Internet of Things, all your tools and technology platforms, you can actually converge and link all of them, and therefore leverage the benefits of all of this. So I think this is really taking place on a very large scale in our sector. Uh, I believe just the way uh, the developer community has realized that the brand plays an extremely important role, and unless you have established your brand, the probability of your success actually rests on it. Your credibility depends on it. Just in the same way, I believe if you do not bring technology digitization and all these tools in the real estate development business, chances of whether you being able to understand the customer, being able to service the customer, being able to manage the environment, being able to run a disciplined, profitable business will get compromised. So I think it's an imperative for business and no longer just a standard, let me just do some digital and technology. So its significance has really taken the top priority for the real estate sector. You have any
Yes, we
questions?
do have. There is one
Yeah.
question just come in that, you just mentioned that on large scale, the developers are now
Hmm.
incorporating technologies in various segments from design to construction to asset management, financial transactions, consumer experience. Is the penetration still superficial? I mean, because the cost remains a big factor for probably a tier two, tier three developer. So, are we seeing only adoption by grade A developers, big organized developers? What is the scenario?
So let me answer this very clearly. One, you don't need to invest in all the systems and tools, actually. Something you can actually outsource most of it. If you were to, for example, implement Salesforce, you'll be surprised if you were to develop your own system, customize it for your business, and implement it would be far more expensive. But at one time, we used to think, Salesforce will be very expensive. For decades, we have used SAP, SAP for our financial and accounting, platforms for our business. Real estate is no different. So there are some which I would say are imperative that you need to invest, and yes, it does cost money, and it also does cost to upgrade. And some tier three developers may not be able to find the initial capital investment and also the trained workforce, skilled workforce to be able to manage. But the way the businesses have grown, uh, the way the volumes have grown, the cost, in my opinion, is not as significant as what we think. So at one time, you would say it is high, not anymore. Also, through a license uh, approach of various software technology and tools, you can actually amortize the cost. So you don't have to pay upfront. You can, rentalize the model or amortize the cost for a period of time. But if you were to compare, a situation where you had to invest nothing in technology and you would run like a mom and pop shop, and therefore those developers may find it difficult, then so the point I was making is they will not be able to sustain the business because uh, the process of technology starts with understanding the customer, connecting with the customer. So if you eventually miss on each of these critical criterias, then you are destined for failure. So soon, over next 3 to 4 years' time, such players may not be in existence to begin with. So it's a very, very imperative. Like I said, it's no longer, uh, you know, good to have. It's must have, critical to have, in my opinion.
Okay. So you mentioned that this is technology is must have, if you need to survive, it is a must. What are those technologies which is right now, imperative? And some which probably like you advise that developers cannot afford, they can go step by step. So which are the technologies which are right now must haves?
So most important right now, critical are your finance and compliance. Real estate sector is requires a lot of interaction with government bodies and all. These are imperatives. The third, at various stages of business, developers attach significance to each and every step. 3, 4 years ago, we used to attach to environment permissions, construction period, approval from the government. Today, the developers are attaching a lot of weightage to generating sales, to generating qualified leads, so that they're able to sell faster, they're able to service their customers better. because the customers have become very brand conscious. They, because of RERA implementation, the men have been separated from the boys, and the customers now are aware which developer they want to go for because of the brand presence, like I was saying earlier, and because of the image and credibility that they carry. So now I think the weightage imperative is customer intelligence, qualification of sales and leads, and then being able to build your technology platforms. So when the lead is generated, and by the way, the leads get generated from the Google search and you know any internet search engine. The moment you search that I'm looking for a two-bedroom apartment in Mumbai, Mulund, the developer seeking in Mulund information from Google automatically gets the qualified leads in their system. And the moment their system, which is again tech based, links to the CRM platform and a call is ignited to the broker or the sales manager of the developer, and that person is able to speak and talk about the person's desire for a two-bedroom BHK within the budget of 1 crore in Mulund, your probability of conversion of sale goes up. Imagine you are typing 2 BHK in the Google. You not even sip a cup of tea, okay, and a call comes to you that I understand, Sapna, that you're looking for 2 BHK. Your mind is already hunting for home. It's warm and it's vulnerable to a decision. And immediately that person capitalizes on your state of mind of impulsive decision. And you say, okay, it's Saturday. I am available between 2 and 3. Can I come and see that apartment? And the guy arranges for you, services you, and it wows you, and he converts a 1 crore sale in less than 30 seconds of you typing 2 BHK Mulund on your search engine. Now, that is the power of technology that we are talking about. Now, if a developer doesn't have it and they generate database from some other source about you, that developer would be way back in the queue because you would have received calls from 5 or 6 developers already, and somebody calling you, you may actually get irritated that how many calls can I really entertain, right? And you may disconnect. The developer has lost the opportunity. So it's an imperative, Satna, in my opinion. And like I said, some of the things you don't need to invest in. So AutoCAD designs and all being outsourced for decades now. Architects and design studios invest in those equipments. So I don't need to invest in it. I can simply outsource and get the best technical, high definition drawings and AutoCADs for my business. Like that, you can move on. For example, I'm using practically every stage of business. Tata Housing is using technology. So even my compliance, my company secretary compliance, my RERA compliance, my project compliance. Some compliance, by the way, are required today. Sapna, if I need to get environment permission today, I need to activate environment permission today. But if I make some changes to my design and the development, the when such designs get changed, I need to again go to the environment ministry for the approval. So I need to set a date in future. Likewise, I need an occupancy certificate of my building. I need to set the RERA date of possession to the customer. All these dates I can feed into the system, and the triggers will go to every individual in my company that, by the way, RERA date is approaching 6 months from now. Are you ready? This is system talking to and communicating with you. So you are basically ensuring there is no human intervention. You're actually ensuring, even if there is a 0.1% probability factor of human error, you're eliminating that human error by making the PropTech communicate with you and to the people, and ensuring that you actually deliver uh, customer experience properly. Let's look at the virtual experience. During pandemic, none of us could bring customers to our sites. It's a very physical decision, and you are vulnerable to pandemic. So obviously, a virtual augmented reality to the customer of an apartment that he or she wants to buy enables an informed decision to you, Sapna. So all these things are actually extremely helpful. In my opinion, I would give weightage to all of these factors. So I know you can prioritize it, but if you prioritize and miss on any of these prop tech, you are that much vulnerable of not being relevant in the real estate development business, in my opinion. I mean, imagine you booking a hotel by physically going to the hotel. Can you ever imagine that? Imagine you going to a travel agency to book your travel ticket. Uh, Impossible. You can't even think of doing that. You will actually book online, whether it's the airline, whether it's the hotel. I think the real estate development industry has already reached that stage, in my opinion.
Okay, fantastic. So one question, like everyone is saying, pandemic has accelerated the adoption of technology. Overall, not only PropTech, but overall, what have been your learnings in past 15, 16 years? 15, 16 months of pandemic.
In Tata Housing and Tata Realty and Infrastructure Limited, very much like the Tata Group companies, we give lot of weightage to people. And I've said that before in many such forums. We do not differentiate between customer, between vendor, between our colleagues and employees in the organization. We think we need to keep our focus on the humane side of the business. And we have ensured that during pandemic, whatever insecurities and concerns, that let's address the issue at home. If you and me are not happy, how would you build a happy home for the customer, right? To begin with. So we ensured we pay up the bonuses, we do the appraisals, we reward and recognize our people so they are motivated. Then we needed to make sure that we provide counseling during this pandemic, emotional counseling, treatment. Then we need to make sure that we provide them insurance cover, not just them, but their family members, whatever medical expenses, which they had not factored in their insurance policies earlier. And even we as an organization had not factored pandemic. We went ahead and secured that, Sapna, first. So once and then we had doctors online repeatedly at different intervals to basically coach them, guide them, because it wasn't new. Nobody knew the pandemic. Nobody knew this virus. There were all kinds of myths and beliefs and misleading information. So we needed to kind of sort that out and make sure that we provide correct information to people about it and what preventive measures they can take. Then a very interesting thing we did, Sapna, prior to the pandemic, we created a platform, a tech platform, where the entire organization can communicate with each other. It's like the equivalent of Facebook, but secure and only limited to the organization. So, you know, somebody's daughter has painted a beautiful picture and he wants to share with his colleagues. He or she is doing it on the Facebook, but some of the colleagues are not on the Facebook page. Some of the colleagues have joined during the pandemic. Nobody even knows that they have joined the organization. So that platform, a social network, a private network that we created, we were able to create a sense of belonging and community without coming to office. And that was extremely heartening. And a lot of emotional concerns were addressed through that tech platform. Now, we actually implemented that to the people when it came to vendors, like employees of contractors and housekeeping companies, construction workers, etc. etc. Same approach. They are, after all, people. The same thing was extended to the customers, Sapna. So I think that one takeaway for me during the pandemic is that you need to remove the labels of customers and contractors and workers and construction workers and put only one label, and that's they are people. And as an organization and as a professional, we need to go all out to make sure that their well-being is taken care of.
That's fantastic. In fact, for everyone, I think pandemic has been a period of self-realization and internally looking. And as you gave an example, how technology, in fact, became an enabler for human experience. So that was. Before we let you go, one last, we would like to get your views on what is your outlook for 2021 and beyond.
I believe very much like 2020, when we saw the second half bounce back, and we were, as an organization, were able to do 121% of our business plan and our target. I have same belief that despite a very disruptive and damaging wave two, we will bounce back. We are better prepared. Already, people are talking that while loss of life and disruption to life has been very severe in second wave, the loss to business has not been. In fact, you know how people are reacting when you look at stock markets, when you look at commodities like gold, silver, currency. Uh, who would have thought that during pandemic, certain corporates will raise billions of dollars from foreign investors? Who would have thought $4 billion of capital will go in commercial real estate property? Who would have thought the third REIT will also happen during pandemic? Who would have thought that the biggest startups will list their listings on the Bombay Stock Exchange and National Stock Exchange during pandemic, right? And they are one of the biggest startups of the country. Is a great case study. So I believe there is a very clear, evident pattern that we have come to terms with this new normal. The new normal is disruptive, but I think the resilience of mankind, the human, and our ability to cope with it has abundantly demonstrated that we will come out stronger. Already, you have case studies of how certain people during pandemic have done even better, right? So while there is no, escape from certain setbacks and loss of life, but the businesses overall have only learned. And then the acceleration of the prop tech in the real estate industry wouldn't have happened at a pace that it did. And therefore, when we come out, which I'm assuming in about a year time or two from this pandemic overall, you will have a much stronger, resilient business. And mind you, the government, which may not have paid attention to real estate sector in the past, even they are listening because disruption causes everybody to sit up and take notice. And I think that has helped overall all of us.
Yes, one silver lining, real estate has come in limelight, and as you mentioned, yes, resiliency of Indian businesses, and as our other speakers also mentioned, that the fundamentals are strong of Indian economy, Indian real estate. So it's just a matter of time, and we'll be back to where we were, and we have a bright future ahead. So thank you so much, Mr. Dutt, sharing your views, sharing your positive sentiments with our audience today, and thank you for being here with us.